Be that word our sign of parting, bird or fiend. I shrieked, upstarting, get thee back into the tempest and the night's Plutonian shore. Leave no black plume as a token of that lie thy soul hath spoken. Leave my loneliness unbroken, quit the bust above my door. Take thy beak from out my heart, and take thy form from off my door. Quoth the raven, nevermore. And the raven, never flitting, still is sitting on the pallid bust of Pallas just above my chamber door, and his eyes have all the seeming of a demon's that is dreaming, and the lamplight over him streaming throws his shadow on the floor, and my soul from out that shadow that lies floating on the floor shall be lifted nevermore. Welcome back, Raven. As you know, to be accessed into the Military Intelligence Corps, you must be able to qualify for a personnel security clearance and must demonstrate to selecting officials that you possess the required reliability, stability and judgment, and thus far you have demonstrated at least some minimal potential. But still, do you have the right stuff? Do we have your attention? We know that you are interested. Have you made your decision for crisis management? Lights. Camera. Action. Based upon your past performance in the initial screening assessment, you had been specially selected for advancement to participate in another unique simulation experience to assess your particular aptitude for analytical capability and leadership as a company-grade military officer in immersive and realistic scenarios, which had tested your acumen and ability, and which may be encountered by senior-level leaders. So, again, you are to be commended for your demonstrated attainments thus far, but there are still yet more challenging tasks to be accomplished. In a real situation, with tempers hot and adrenaline running, the decisions that you make may not only affect you and your career progression but will have ripple effects upon perhaps thousands or even millions of others. No pressure. You are still in the game. Many are called, but few are chosen, so let's see how you performed. As you should already know, the basic organizing principle of society is for war, and war is, simply stated, a continuation of policy, by other means. But all war is based upon deception. And, hence, intelligence is simply the discipline and art of acquisition to obtain relevant and actionable information regarding adversaries, or ascertaining an opponent's secrets, which we most often describe as simply collection, while counterintelligence involves the efforts to deny information to our adversaries. Very simple. And an intelligence operator will set out to acquire this critical information by first engaging in planning that will create an intelligence collection plan, for, as they say, there are many ways to skin a cat. Collection can involve direct activities, to include infiltration, which may include hacking, or through less intrusive means such as active surveillance. However, as you know, the consequences of apprehension can be rather unpleasant, and, since your activities cannot be acknowledged, they shall be, for official purposes, disavowed. But surprisingly, sometimes the most effective means is the deceptively clever option of simply and directly asking for the information from the source, who may or may not readily provide you the information with no resistance at all, probably wholly unaware that a successful breach had occurred. Consider this: the simple process of classifying information is controlled by rigid rules, and, under the Freedom of Information Act, or FOIA, a government agency is permitted to withhold information for only 9 specified reasons, and under Exemption 1, a government agency is permitted to withhold disclosure of information if the information requested is considered classified information. And, while it is not considered classified information to acknowledge that something is, in fact, classified information, a government agency has also informed you that this information is subject to certain inviolable rules, which information, of itself, can be most useful in more refined analysis. For example, on March 23, 2021, the White House had acknowledged receipt of OMB FOIA number 21-220, which had sought to determine whether or not certain standard epidemiological metrics, i.e., infectious dose and/or secondary attack rate for COVID-19 were classified information, which, if classified, any information regarding the exact metrics would be exempted from disclosure under Exemption 1. However, by simply posing the question, the requester had framed an inquiry that, if answered in the affirmative, would, by simple operation of law, specifically, Executive Order 12-958 would further disclose that the government had owned or controlled the causative biological agent, and if it had owned or controlled this causative biological agent, then it would have had to have been cultivated or manipulated in a laboratory. Now, Raven, for your test, if you had been the recipient of this FOIA request, what would have been your best recommendation for handling a particular vexing situation? If you assert a claim of executive privilege, such could only be used for matters of national security, essentially stating that the information is classified. If you refuse to respond at all, you could open the door to litigation to compel the White House to disclose the information that it had unlawfully withheld from disclosure. And, if you had chosen the course of action followed during the Watergate scandal, conspiring with the intelligence community, or further, attempting to corrupt the courts, this would be one of the grossest abuses of power in history. How would you handle this situation, using your best discretion and judgment? Truth or consequences? Judicial review of agency action is limited to the grounds that the agency invoked when it took the action. The acts of a subordinate done in compliance with an unlawful order given him by his superior are excused and impose no criminal liability upon him unless the superior's order is one which a man of ordinary sense and understanding would, under the circumstances, know to be unlawful, or if the order in question is actually known to the accused to be unlawful. Did you wake the president? This concludes this simulation, and you shall be contacted with the results. Thanks for your participation. That is all. Carry on.
This message was approved by Major Mike Webb. Honest.